I require text. I have no memory. You know, if Jerry were here, he would be asking Peggy to come move this about 6 inches forward. And in 10 minutes it would come back. Yeah, you recognize that, yes. Yeah, I came to Stage West during its first season, somewhere in there. Two friends and I had started another theater at the same time, and for its own reasons, it didn't work out as well as Stage West. And two of us decided that it was time to move on from that, and we called Jerry, who we did not know, or should that be whom? Thank you, Jeeves. And offered him our services, and he said, well, come talk to me. And so we did. And after a little conversation, he said, well, I think one of you should direct this upcoming show, and one of you should be in it, and you can decide which way you want to do that. And so I ended up directing it, and Mario Cabrera, who was the other person there, starred in it. That show was The Drunkard, which is a classic melodrama. And it turned out well, but after that, no one thought Stage West needed to do any more melodramas. The mess, you know. So. But the thing is, the risk Jerry was taking there, he didn't know us. He hadn't seen our work. I believe Susie had. And I think that fit in with what he was doing with the whole thing. He was daring to do something that required a huge amount of passion and intelligence and artistry and effort, God knows. And he was willing to take that kind of risk in the midst of that process. And from the beginning, I think Stage West was about doing things nobody else was doing. The first couple of seasons included a Harold Pinter play, and for colored girls who considered suicide, and yes, and an original musical, and Jacques Brel, for that matter, which became a sort of Stage West signature piece, but it's certainly not something anybody else in the area would have done before that. And he was willing to take that sort of risks with people, as he did with us, to create a place that encouraged them to do their best work. And it became, and I hope it still is, a hallmark of Stage West. And he would stand by that work, even when he might not totally agree with it. A bit later, still in the dark ages history of Stage West, a significant turning point in Stage West history, because it was in the earlier habitation of the Vickery space, and it was the first show that moved dinner out of the theater, so that Stage West became a theater with dinner option rather than a dinner theater. And we were doing Equus, and yes, it's part of the reason. And I was directing, and Jerry was starring in it as the psychiatrist. And we got to dress rehearsals. And I had rearranged somewhat the way the nudity in the show was being dealt with, and a couple of other things that were different from the conventional production. And we got into dress rehearsals, and Jerry called me in for a meeting, and some of the design and tech crew, some of whom may be here, had complained that we were doing a gay production of Equus. Now, I might have said, Equus is a pretty darn gay play to start with. Well, it is. I don't think I did say that, but but I did rehearse the reasons and the logic behind what we were doing, and he accepted that, and he didn't make me change a thing. Now, it probably helped for future stuff that that show got great reviews, and particularly those aspects, and that it went on to be a big success. But nevertheless, not to say he couldn't dig in his heels and be really stubborn. His opposition to the play Hedda Gabler comes to mind. But he became, over what is now a startlingly long time, a great friend and collaborator in creating theater. And though we certainly fought quite regularly, he was not a holder of grudges. He was a great actor, as Joe said, and he could make other actors raise their game on stage just by his commitment and presence there. I rarely got to tell him how good he was, even when I was directing him in something, because he usually beat me to it. He was not shy about his accomplishments, nor did he have any reason to be. He was a great artist. No one's going to find his work in their attic in 150 years and sell it for millions of dollars. Theater's all about impermanence, but he was. My friend Vivia had a dream about Jerry shortly after he died. She said he was singing in a spotlight with a microphone, sort of like Frank Sinatra, which I think, had you offered him an alternative existence, that's probably the one he would have gone for. As who would not? I mean... And about the same time, I also had an equally positive sort of dream about Jerry, and he never turned up in my dreams. It's too complicated to relate now, but he and Ziggy were watching a play in it, and Vivia says that he was letting us know he's okay. And that seems right to me. He was a great artist and a great friend, and I wish him the absolute best in his next endeavors.